All right, so now we are ready to move on. A good way to tell if this is dry or not, if you feel this and then feel the fabric, they should feel the same temperature when it's dry. If it is still wet, when you feel this, this will feel much cooler. One of the things I kept doing was also squishing these joints together so that it would dry correctly. Next part is we're going to glue the fabric to the inside. I accidentally glued the piece that's going to go on the inside here first. This is where I probably should have written down the steps first. What we're going to do is trim along the outside edge of our book cover for right now. Let me see if I can move this. Maybe I can adjust my camera down just a little bit more. There we go. All right. I'm going to move a few things real quickly because I don't want to accidentally cut them while I am working. I'm going to cut this about 1 inch to 1.5 inches out. I really like to cut my fabric a little bit big, and then I can simply trim off what I don't need. We're going to do that on all of the sides real quickly. Now that we've trimmed around it, we're also going to trim the corners. You can trim your corners straight across, or you can kind of do the angle method. I prefer the angle method. The most important thing is to remember that you want to leave a space out here. If you cut all the way into here, this corner will show. So our goal is to cover that corner. We don't want to get too close in. So I think it's better to err and leave a little too much on the corner than it is to do that. And the reason we do this is because you would have a ton of fabric if you didn't cut out the corners. So we're very carefully cutting the corners. Once we get done with this, now we have a couple of more cuts to make. What I want to do is, this is a ton of fabric to have down in here. So what we're going to do now is cut, you have your line here, which is the edge of this. We're going to take that line and we're going to cut down towards this part. Then we want to leave about 1/2 inch. We're going to come back this direction and then cut this part again at an angle. This way, now when we fold this, it will fold into this center part. And these will fold over here. So we're going to actually leave a little bit of this way. All right, we're going to also do that on this side as well. Again, we just don't want all that bulk in here. This we do, but, well, it won't be bulky in here, but because this is curved, we definitely want to try to cut out some of this fabric. And that will be good for that end as well. Now, I am going to go ahead and glue these two sides first and these two sides last. Again, using our PVA, we're going to apply the glue both to the cardboard. We're going to also apply it to our hardboard. Then we're also going to apply just a little bit here in the middle to stick this fabric to as well. We do want to make sure this comes up far enough that we also get all of that fabric. All right, and a little bit on this fabric over here as well. There we go. So then last but not least, you want to also make sure that you are getting it along the edges here. We want to make sure we get it all on these edges, including the edge of this. So to take it down a little bit that way would be fine as well. I am going to start on the ends. You can do these one at a time if you prefer. That's fine. You could add the glue and then glue the other side as well. I want to pull up though because I want to make sure that I'm getting that glue securely over that part. Now remember, we're not going to run the glue, we're not pulling this all the way to the end. We're leaving just a little bit. Oop, let me do that. There we go. So that this all lines up, and then we're going to push these parts down as well. There we go. Now I'm going to flip this over one more time. I want to just make sure that this is all nice and neat down here. Again, I'm going to actually just use my bone folder real quickly and make sure that that fabric is all attached and smooth in there. All right, now we're going to do this side. Flipping the whole thing over, we're going to do this again. We're going to put the glue out on this edge. As well as this edge. We want to make sure we get glue down into that fabric part. And then we're going to put the glue along this edge as well. And then last but not least, make sure you're getting your glue all along this edge. And the edge also of your cardboard spine as well. One more time, we're going to take this side and press that in. Make sure you're getting along the edge. So it may be better to make sure you're pushing that down. Smooth this down. Make sure this edge is flat. Then just take your fingers and work through this. These are some staple marks from the fabric. Again, we're going to take the fabric, press it over this edge, and then again over this edge. Press all of this down, smooth it out. Then last but not least, we're going to fold this gently. We don't want to actually fold this so that it's flush. This is not going to be flush. You want just a little bit of play down here. So we're going to fold that. Then we're going to flip this over again and make sure that this is all sticking where it should be. All right, now that we've done that, we can work on our sides. This part's a little bit more tricky because this is the area where we're going to do a little bit of extra folding. So I'm going to slide this back. Again, we're going to glue the fabric. Remember, this comes in at an angle, so we just want to come in at a little bit of an angle for this. We're going to continue with our glue, making sure we're getting glue down along the edge. I have tried putting the glue on the fabric as well. You can do that. I just personally prefer putting the glue here. And yes, you waste some of your glue because it does come up over the edge. Now we're going to take our corners. We want to tuck this part in. And I kind of have to mess with it a little bit. Then we're going to fold this part over on the edge. And then last but not least, we're going to fold all of this in this way. Then I always like to pinch my corners to make sure that everything is good and tight. And it looks like I have a little bit of fabric hanging out there. I will cut that off. But this is how you really want your corners to look. You want them to be really good and tight. And like I said, this glue is a little bit forgiving, so I'm going to go back and fix that corner so that, oh, I see what that fabric is. That's some of that fabric. That's okay. We're going to tuck that in as well. So just make sure it's really good and tight. Press down on the corners. Make sure that everything is good and tight so that your corners are flat. I'm just going to go over these edges one more time too. I feel like they were not sticking down correctly. I'm going to look at these edges too. So take your time with your books. You don't need to rush. I think that's where I messed up with the other one, is I was trying to rush through, do this all in one quick, not having to edit or splice anything. That was a mistake. So we're doing it right now, and even doing it right, I managed to kind of mess it up a little bit anyway. Yeah, well, we're back again. So make sure you get the glue all the way to the corners as well. Again, we're going to pick it up. We want to make sure that we're getting this down and in a little bit. Pushing that down and then pushing the sides in as well. Then we're going to wrap it over, press down that side as well as pressing down this side. We have one more thing we need to do. Again, I didn't quite get that right, so I'm going to peel. I don't know, maybe my right hand is not working quite right today. It seems to be that right corner for me is not cooperating. All right, now I think I've got it. There we go. Okay, pressing all that down. Now we have all our fabric. The last thing we need to do is to actually glue in our piece that has our ribbons or cord or elastic or whatever. This is the cardstock. I accidentally glued it in, and as soon as I glued it in, I realized that I didn't want it glued in, so I real quickly peeled it back out. But this is going to fit down into this section. So again, I'm going to fold back both sides of this so that I can see, because this is going to fit right into this section. And that's the first part we want to glue down, is right in here. You don't need to go all the way to the top. Leave about 1/8 of an inch from the top for your for a gap, because it will not go all the way to the top. We want to leave a little bit of a gap, because this is now taller than that piece of cardstock. That piece of cardstock is only 8.5 inches. This, we can be a little bit more generous on the glue as well, because this is cardstock to cardstock, so I'm not worried that this glue is going to bleed through. All right, now that we have that, I'm going to very carefully line up this edge, again, getting it even between the top and the bottom. And then I want to, it's going to curve in, and we want to line up this edge as well. But we want to make sure we line it up before we really press it down. That is really important. So I'm going to hold a finger there. It looks like we have that edge. Now we can really press this cardstock into the middle. Make sure it's all pressed down well. it should be sticking right into the spine, your curved spine. Now the last part we're going to do is glue these little flaps down. And I am going to again take my glue, glue the flap, being careful not to get glue on the other parts because we don't want that to happen. I'm also going to put a wee bit of glue down this little strip of fabric. Again, not a lot, just a little bit. And now we're going to glue this flap over, and we're going to flip the whole book again. I know it's a lot of flipping and a lot of toing and froing, but trust me, this turns out really, really well. This is closer to the older style of doing bookbinding. So this may not be quite so junk journal-y because this is actually much closer to what you would see if you were actually binding books. I like I said, I did a lot of research before coming up with this method of bookbinding. And then we're also going to do our other flap. We're going to fold that back, put our glue on this side again as well, trying not to get it down onto what you already have in the middle here. However, if you're worried about it, you could always tuck a piece of paper under your cardstock right here. So we could just do something like this. And then we don't have to worry as much about it, and we can make sure we're getting all the way out to the edge, and we're not going to get glue anywhere we don't want it. Again, remember, a light strip of glue down the center here, also on this joint where this fabric comes down. All right, we're going to press that over, take that out, and then we're going to, again, with our bone folder, or your, it could be your, you could use a straight edge ruler. You could even use a kitchen knife, but be very, very careful. It would need to be a butter knife. You don't want anything that is serrated. Anything that is serrated will actually catch on your fabric, and we don't want that. Now, I know that you're saying, but wait, Michelle, you haven't put anything on the inside. We're not going to put that down yet, so be patient. This next part, you need some twine. This was something I had seen in one of the videos. We're going to very carefully tuck down into here, as well as tuck these down so that they're not sticking up. We want that to go in that way. We want this to go this way. We'll also take this side. We're going to make sure that these are kind of going down a little bit. Then we're going to take our twine, starting at the bottom. We want to take our twine. I'm going to go ahead and fold these in. Part of what I'm doing is also bending that cardstock that's inside. So I'm just bending this so that this comes in like this. We're going to also bend this side in. I need to flip this over so I can get this side. This is a lot of what you would see if you were buying a book. You would see this dent in here. We're going to also fold it in a little bit better. There we go. So this fold is right where you have your cardstock, and I'm going to bend this cardstock as well on this side. I want to bend that in a little bit better. And then we're going to go ahead and close up the book a little bit. We're going to run our twine around the book. So keep pushing this part in so that it's flush. This twine is going to help hold all of this in the end, so that as it dries, and that cardstock is going to also help hold everything. That's one of the reasons why I love using cardstock in this part of the journal, whether it's a junk journal or anything else. Now, I just want to make sure that I have my string all, or my twine or string or whatever, all in the right place. So like this needs to be further down. I want to pull that there. And I want to make sure that it's in the right place over here as well. And it's mostly, but not really, I want it down in this part of the spine. There we go. So I've got that side. We're going to flip it over, make sure I've got it in the right place. So it's going right along the edge where the this hard edge is, where the wood meets the, there we go. All right. So now that I have that done, I'm going to tie this twine good and tight. And then we are simply going to let this dry. Then we'll come back one more time to actually finish up these covers. All right, so, oops, I didn't get that quite tight. We do want to make sure it's nice and tight. Well, I usually can do this, but I haven't tried this on a spine this wide. So I think what I'm going to do is go like this, tie it tighter this way. There we go. Now it's tight. One way you can double check it is to actually lay your book out flat. And it should stay down into those creases. And then we're simply going to set our book upright like this and let it dry. I will see you in a little bit to finish our cover.